God chose His Son, Jesus, for a special purpose. We know that it was David's desire to build a temple to God. We know that his son Solomon built that temple, and God told David, because of the violence and the blood on your hands, you shall not be the one who shall build my temple. But from your loins I will raise one who will build a temple. Was that Solomon? Only in a foreshadow and only in a type. Solomon did fulfill that prophecy, but so does the Son of God, who also is of the genealogical lineage of David. It was Jesus' purpose as a carpenter of the master architect, God. It's His purpose to build that temple. Only He could build a temple that is clean and undefiled with pure hands. Only He has the workmanship that is good enough for the Father. And we find in Zechariah chapter 6 and verse 13, even He shall build the temple of the Lord. This is speaking of one that Zechariah calls the branch. Why is he called the branch? Because he comes from that same tree, from that same vine. He is of the lineage of David. He is the branch that comes off that lineage. And He fulfills prophecy. Even He shall build the temple of the Lord, and He shall bear the glory, and shall sit and rule upon His throne, and He shall be a priest upon His throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. So we see here the Son of God becomes a priest and a king. Under Levitical law, not allowed. So we see Levitical law here being usurped by the Melchizedek priesthood, which is greater, which is both allowed to be king and priest. And so here is the branch, built in the temple, shall reign as king and priest. Malachi chapter 3. And I'm going to hit you with a few scriptures, so we're going to keep this moving. That's your last prophet in the Old Testament. Way to go, Chris. Last prophet in the Old Testament, chapter 3, verse 1. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to His temple. Now Elijah proclaimed the day of the coming of the Lord. So did John the Baptist in the spirit of Elijah. And Jesus did ride in from the east on a donkey into the Jerusalem city to fulfill. But this speaks of one fulfillment that is more than just a humble riding on a donkey. If we read down, even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in, behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. So the Son of God returns to build, or to actually he's built, but to set up this temple on the earth. And he has to purify the sons of Levi for a priestly function. So these are the Levites that are of the remnant that he has just saved out of Jerusalem. You following me on this? You following me? He came down and he saved Israel, a remnant, and now he brings them into a purpose in this new millennium kingdom, but they're in the flesh. Keep in mind that he has left the New Jerusalem in the sky to come down and do this work. So we have a Jerusalem above, and we have a Jerusalem below. And remember, Galatians chapter 5 tells us that Jerusalem, which above, is free and is mother of us all. It's mother of the saints. She's our mother. But Jerusalem, which is below, is in bondage. Right? And is still under the old type and the old shadow. So above the Jerusalem that Jesus built, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would not have told thee. And so he tells us to wait and tarry as he brings and returns with his Father's promise. But that is a promise for the saints. He also has to restore a place, because he is going to rule out of Zion, rule over the earth as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We will inhabit the earth. We will not float off into heaven, but we wait for him at his coming, either alive at the time when he returns or in the grave waiting for that trumpet to sound. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Back to Ezekiel chapter 43. And we see Ezekiel's vision of the return of the Lord, starting in verse 1. We see from the east gate. Now the east was kind of significant because the sun rose in the east and settled in the west. But they were to worship God, and Jesus' coming would be from the east. And it says in verse 2, "Behold, the glory of God of Israel came from the way of the east, and his voice was like a noise of many waters, and the earth shineth with his glory." The prospect is toward the east. And we see in verse 10, "Thou son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern." And so Ezekiel was to give the exiled Israelites the vision of the future temple, that they could be ashamed. Where is it put? Verse 12, "This is the law of the house upon the top of the mountain, the whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house." Keep your finger in Ezekiel, and we'll see in Isaiah chapter 44. Again, verse 2, again speaking of the branch, "The Lord shall be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel." So we're speaking of the remnant here. "And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion, and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem." Verse 5, "And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies, a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense." That's Isaiah chapter 4.